I'm Dan Edmunds, and this is a 2020 Toyota Land Cruiser Heritage Edition. And this is the closely related Lexus LX 570. They're both 200 series Land Cruisers under the skin, but as you can see, the skin is quite different, especially where it counts up front. The suspensions are different too. The Toyota has the KDSS system of detachable stabilizer bars, while the Lexus has fixed stabilizer bars and four-wheel active height control. And this is my Flex Index ramp. I'm going to drive both of them up the ramp and see how far they'll go. How much will they flex on the ramp and off-road? But before I get started, remember to click subscribe. I told you I was going to keep track, right? So this is my new leaderboard. How do you like them apples? Rubicon, bar off 607, bar on 458, the Mojave somewhere in the middle. So the question is, where are the LX 570 and the Toyota Land Cruiser going to fit within here? That's what we're about to find out. I've decided the Lexus should go first, but I have to say I'm a little bit concerned because look at that front end, especially right in front of the tires. This has the Sport package, which includes what they call front spoilers, which that might be the key word here because I don't know if it's going to clear the ramp in normal mode. Now, high mode, probably, but we'll have to see. I haven't even been up the ramp yet, but look at the scratches that are already there. That does not bode well for what I'm about to do. You know, this ramp is a cheese grater, and if I'm not careful, I could rip that thing wide open. All right, let's do this. So this is neutral height, and right away I can see this is a no-go. It's touching up there right now. Luckily not on these teeth, but on this edge, but it's touching, and this isn't really on the ramp yet. If I go forward anymore, that's just going to auger into the ramp and really start tearing things up. So this spoiler, yeah, living up to its name, it's spoiling the party here. I'm going to have to raise it into high mode. Well, it certainly looks like we have enough clearance now to go up the ramp, so that's good news, but I could swear that the rear went up first and pushed the nose down into the ramp before the nose lifted. That seems backwards to me, because if you're trying to clear something, you want the front to go up first and then the rear after that, or both together if you can manage it. I think that's as far as it wants to go, but let's see if I can lift this wheel. Oh yeah, right there. I can actually lift it off the ground just a smidge with one hand. So, time to measure up here. For those of you who thought I chickened out by not going up in normal mode, look at this. The gap isn't even enough for my finger, and high mode raised it up way more than that. So in normal mode, this would be crushed, and even this part here is lower than the ramp. And it's all scratched up from other users of this vehicle that drove it before I did. None of this is me. Well, maybe that one. That's about it right there. So I'm going to put a little piece of tape. Perfect. Now to measure. (22 9/16). Divide that by the sine of 20, and we get 66 inches of climb even. 66. Divide that into the wheelbase, which is, or I should say divide that by the wheelbase of 112, and we get 5.588, but times 1,000, 588 is our flex index score for the LX 570 in high mode. So that's it. 588 is the flex index score for the Lexus LX 570. It's time to bring on the Land Cruiser. What I've got here is a Heritage Edition Land Cruiser, which basically is the same as Land Cruisers that came before, except a few mods to make it a little bit better for overlanding. The rear seat, the third row seat, has been removed, so there's more room for gear. There's no cool box in the center console, so there's more room for gear. There's a roof basket, you guessed it, so there's more room for gear. But the suspension is kind of the same. I mean, the wheels are gold, but these are the same tires. It's the same suspension with KDSS, which is a system of disconnectable stabilizer bars that the 200 series Land Cruiser has always had, but the LX hasn't because it's got that height control system instead. So that's kind of the crux of this test, which one works better here on the ramp, which by extension also would mean off-road as well. Well, that beep was the parking sensor telling me that the front end was close to something, but I knew that. Anyway, how close are we to something? Well, look at this. We've got plenty of room down here, quite a bit more than the LX had, and I'm actually touching, so I'm a little further up than I was at this point with the LX, but I've got a lot more room here. There is no issue at all. I can just go right on up. Right there, right there. So here we have no problem. I can get my whole hand in between here. This part doesn't really matter. It's really flexible, and it's not something that is painted, you know, with nice paint. This is the bodywork you're worried about, and yeah, no problem at all. And this is normal mode. It's not a raised mode. Like the LX didn't even have room for my finger in its raised mode. That's how different these two front bumpers are. Yeah, it's quite a bit further up the ramp. Let's see. Gonna call it right there. That looks like it's about 8 inches further up the ramp from the LX. Yeah, just a little bit over 8 inches. And you know, the only reason I can make this comparison is because the Land Cruiser and the LX share a wheelbase of 112.2. Normally, just visualizing this, you might not be able to tell if it was like a Wrangler and a 4Runner because they have different wheelbases. But in this case, they have the same wheelbase. So this visual indication is pretty much how much better the Land Cruiser did. And that measures out to 25 3/8. So here's my height measurement, 25 3/8 of an inch off the ground to this point. That equates to 74.2 inches of climb up the ramp. Divide that by the wheelbase, which both of these trucks share, 112.2, and you get 0.661 multiplied by 1,000, 661 flex index points for the Land Cruiser. And I didn't have to do anything. There's only one height, and the stabilizer bars disconnect themselves. You don't have to do anything. So I just drove up the ramp. So it's time to assign the scores. The Lexus LX 570, it did it in 588. But this was a sport in high mode. And that puts it right there. But I have to tell you that it didn't do well in normal mode. In fact, it couldn't cross the ramp. So unfortunately, that's a big goose egg. So yeah, and I'm not sure if it would do better, probably, without the optional sport package spoiler on the front end. But that's what I got, and that's what it got. Meanwhile, the Land Cruiser, 661. So you can see what that does. That makes the Land Cruiser the new #1 until I bring something out that does better. Until next time, this is Dan Edmunds saying thanks for watching this Flex Index test. And it's getting a little bit more full, and it's getting a little bit more interesting every time. Thanks for watching. And remember to like, subscribe, share, all the things.